Hello everyone, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel Economics Made Easy.
So, our letter for today is letter B. Now, there were a lot of words from this letter that you guys may have come across, that I have actually come across, and I thought you guys would have also come across. So, I've tried, explaining some of them in this video, and I'll continue with the others in my next video. So, let's start with today's video. So the first word is balance of payments. Now this is something that's very common on news channels. You would have heard that the balance of payment for this country is this or this country is that. If you are more into economic news, so you may have heard of this a lot. Now it's easy. The very easy definition of it is that it's the total amount of all the money that's coming into your country from abroad minus the amount or the money that is going out of your country during the same period of time. Now, this is important that we are considering the same period of time or the same 1 year that we are taking for both of these activities, the money coming in or the money going out. So, it's easy, it's just the money that's coming from abroad and the money that's going out from your country or to abroad, that's balance of payments. The you know it basically captures that monetary transactions is balance of payments. Now it's usually broken down into current account and capital account. So these are something, so there's a lot of details to this balance of payment. I'll try making a different video wherein I'll explain all of these terminologies that are there in balance of payments, because there are a lot, and we'll try solving some of the numericals also in that video itself. So for as of now, you just know the basic definition that it's money coming in from abroad less the money going out from your country. So you have the basic idea of this term. The formula is balance of current account plus balance of capital account. That's it. We'll study about balance of payment deficit and balance of payment surplus, and I'll make a separate video. I'll explain all of that in that. So the next term is balanced budget. So it, of course, it's very understandable. You can actually look at the picture and understand what it means. When your expenses are equal to your income. So if you're looking at yourself, if you're earning suppose 2000 in a month, or you're getting a pocket money of 2000 in a month, and you're spending those 2000s, so you have a balanced budget. You have that income of 2000, you're spending those 2000, it's balanced for you. So your budget is balanced. Now, talking about the government, because of course we are looking at a larger picture over here. So, talking about the government, when the total public sector spendings, the spending that the government is doing in construction of maybe roads or highways or in providing public transportation, these are all public sector spending that the government makes. So, when these spendings are equal to the income, so these are basically expenditure for the government, right? The government is making expenses on you, on the public, so these are expenses. When it equals the government income, now the government is earning that income, or it's making that income by way of charging taxes or the charges that it takes for public services, right? So through taxes or the charges for public services that the government charges, that way it's making income. So when the spendings that the government is making on the public sector spendings, when it equals the taxes the collected or the income it has made from various sources equals, that's called balanced budget. And the next term is bankruptcy. It's, of course, it's very easy. Bankruptcy in simple terms is when you're burdened by debt and you're not able to repay it, or you do not have the money to repay it. So if we take your example, a very simple example, if suppose you've given some money to your friend, and your friend, and he's supposed to pay you back after 10 days. Now after 10 days he comes up to you and he says that dude, I don't have the money and I can't pay you back. So that's when you can declare him bankrupt, because he doesn't have the money, he's not paying you back. That means he's left with no money. So that's when he's bankrupt. And if you, of course you won't do it, but if you go forward and you would actually take a legal way of solving this out, or you would actually file legal proceeding to get that money back, that's when that is what we term as bankruptcy. So bankruptcy is a legal proceeding which involves a person or business that is unable to repay its outstanding debts. So of course we'll talk in terms of a larger, we'll see the larger picture, we'll talk in terms of the entire economy. So it's a business, we can say, when the business is not able to repay its outstanding debts, that's when we declare it to be bankrupt, and bankruptcy is that legal proceeding that takes place when a person is declared bankrupt. So it's a process that begins with a petition filed by the debtor. Debtor is someone who is to receive the money, and of course it's very rare that a creditor files a bankruptcy, because of course he's the one who is to pay that, so it's very rare that a creditor files a bankruptcy petition. So it's very common that a debtor files a bankruptcy petition. So it's that, it's very in simple terms you can understand bankruptcy. Now the next term is barter. So I have actually attached an image. You would understand it looking at the image itself. Barter system is when you're, giving a good to buy a good. Like in this picture, a person wants to buy a loaf of bread. Like this person wants to buy a loaf of bread. What is he doing? He's paying it with wheat. So he's not giving money, he's paying wheat for this loaf of bread. So barter is just paying for goods and services with goods or services instead of money. You're not paying money to buy a good, you're just giving another good in place of one good. So it's popular when the quality of money is low or uncertain. It can also be due to high inflation or counterfeiting. Now it can also happen when people are asset rich but cash poor. Suppose this person has more of wheat, he does not have cash. So he'll give wheat to buy a loaf of bread. He won't give cash. When he has more of wheat, that's when we call him asset rich but cash poor. Now, one more point of this is just general knowledge. You can keep this in mind that barter system actually became popular in Russia during the 1990s. So it was there back then, but now money is important and money is the only thing that you can buy stuff. Now, the next term is Basel norms. So this is something that you need to study in detail if you're, trying to understand the banking sector. So these are Basel norms are international banking regulations which are issued by the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, BCBS. There's a committee formed, Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, that comes up with Basel norms every time. So there are actually three Basel norms: Basel 1, Basel 2, Basel 3. So this is this Basel, understanding Basel norm requires very, um, I would say a different video. So I'll try making a different video on Basel norms wherein I'll explain all of the Basel norms and what all Basel 1, 2 and 3 includes. And so as of now you can just understand the basic meaning, that these are formed to coordinate the banking regulations across the globe with the goal of strengthening the international banking system. So there have been actually a lot of frauds happening with the banking sector. So Basel norms are formed so that the international banking system is strengthened, and also so that every bank in every country is following the same banking regulations, and everyone is not working according to their own regulations and everything. So it's to coordinate the banking regulations that are there across the globe. Now some one other piece of information or general knowledge we can say is that the committee that that supervises the Basel norms, or that is helping in regulating the Basel norms, consists of representatives from central banks and regulatory authorities of 27 countries. So this is just a piece of general information, and these 27 countries, India is one of them. I'll try making a separate video. I'll explain everything what Basel 1, 2 and 3 include. So you can just understand the basic meaning of this term as of now. That's all. So the next term for today is basis point. Now let's understand this with the help of some numbers given over here. So 1% is 100 basis points, and 0.1%, 0.01% in is 1 basis points. So this is all I think you should know about basis points. So if you're actually, told that, I've taken an example over here, if a bond yield moves from 5.25% to 5.45%, it means that it has risen by 20 basis points. Of course, there's a difference of 20 over here between this and this. So it's 0.2%, and that would mean 20 basis points. So that's all. You just have to remember these numbers given, which is 1% is 100 basis points and 0.01% is 1 basis points. Now let's see what it means in a word definition. So 1/100th of a percentage point is basis point. This is what we saw here, which is 0.01% is 1 basis points. These are actually used to measure the small movements that happen in the interest rate. Of course, the interest rate doesn't go from 6% to 9%. It changes by very small movements. Like in this example we saw, it changes point from 5.25 to 5.45. You can't say that it has changed by 0.2%. So saying that it has changed by 20 basis points makes more sense if you know what 1 basis point consists of, than saying that it has moved by 0.2%. So these are used to measure the small movements that take place in interest rates and exchange rates and bond yields, because these terms do not go from directly from 5 to 6 to 7. These actually move in point, percentages, which is 0.2%, 0.3%, 0.01% maybe sometimes. So that ways. Now the last term for today is behavioral economics. So this is a field that has actually gained a lot of attention these days. Behavioral economics is becoming very very important for even for the if you are in if suppose you want to pursue marketing in future. So behavioral economics has actually become very important because it helps us understand the decision making, what all a person is thinking while making a particular decision. So economics is, of course, in the conventional economics I've mentioned over here. Conventional economics is all about that a person will behave in a particular situation, and he'll behave like this in one particular situation. That's conventional economics. We say that if the price goes up, a person will buy less of the product. If the price goes down, the person will buy more of the product. So this is what conventional economic talks about, conventional economic theory. Now behavioral economics actually combines psychology with economics. So it helps us understand what all is the thinking process that goes behind a person deciding to buy something. So it concentrates on explaining the economic decisions people make in practice. It's not that you've assumed something and you're working on that. It is something that people make in practice or in real life. It's reality. So it's psychology, what all is going on in a person's mind, along with why is he taking that decision. So this is a very actually explored field these days. There are a lot of research papers being written over this field. So I can actually make a video and show you how you can find some research papers. So if you want to read very deep about this, you can actually read the entire research paper. These actually consist of around 100 to 150 pages. But if you want to just have a knowledge or a basic knowledge of behavioral economics, I can show you what all you can read, how can you search the paper, what all can you read, so that you have a bit of more knowledge about this subject, because this is what everyone right now is working like. There are a lot of papers being published, there are a lot of researches being done on this particular topic, because this is what the future, the future will have. Like, of course, just making assumptions about people won't help a company. It's important that someone understands how is or what is going on in the person's mind behind the money he's spending, or what all is he looking at before spending the money that he is spending. So herein the behaviorists actually try to replace the traditional ideas that are there or the assumptions that have been made into the decision making models that are being borrowed from psychology. So it's a combination of psychology plus economics. This is behavioral economics. So yeah, these were the words for today, and these are all the words that we'll understand, or that I'll explain in the next lecture. As I had mentioned earlier, there were a lot of words, so I've covered some in this video lecture, and I'll cover all of these in the next one. So yeah, that was all for today. Thank you for watching the video. Also, do subscribe to the channel, like and share if you find the content helpful.